Jon Snow in the books has been waiting for someone to revive him for like 13 years now. He's been lying in the cold snow thinking, when are these son of a guns gonna revive me? I'm right here. But just like the TV show, Jon Snow will come back to life at some point. Most likely in the next book whenever George wants to finish that last bit of that book. But unlike the TV show, in the book there's a pretty good possibility of Jon Snow returning as the villain. These possibilities come from interviews that the author has done, where he talks around it. Daenerys' very dark and gloomy visions of Jon Snow, Catelyn Stark aka Lady Stoneheart and the personal ambitions of Jon in the books, so we have a lot to unfold here. Jon Snow coming back to life as the villain would be so goddamn cool. And when I mean villain, I'm not talking about some high schooler when the teacher is taking attendance and they say not here. I'm talking more like an Anakin Skywalker type of villain. And that's something we do absolutely have to clarify. When I say Jon Snow could return as the villain, I'm not exactly talking about the Night King from the TV show. That dude didn't even talk. When we say Jon could be a villain, I'm talking more like Tywin Lannister mixed with Ramsay Bolton, maybe to a lesser degree. Jon could still become the leader of the White Walkers, but I'll talk about it in a sec. But let's just talk about the obvious first. The White Walkers do have a revive potion to bring people somewhat back to life. Now this one is obviously the most basic way to make Jon a bad guy. And it's not really that cool or has really much depth. Jon being a brainless white is kinda boring. Whites can't sit on the Iron Throne, torture people, have sex, and all the other things in life that keeps us going. So this is pretty unlikely. However, here's where stuff gets crazy with this theory. George Martin said that the character Beric Dondarrion is a white of fire. So just like how these other whites are whites of ice and Vanilla Ice Ice Baby, Beric Dondarrion is a fire white. So that kinda goes with the whole Song of Ice and Fire thing. And we do know Melisandre, the fine-ass redhead who can do horrible things to me, he could revive Jon Snow and try to make him a fire white, and fail halfway, and the White Walkers can do the other half and make a Jon a white of ice and fire. And Jon essentially has to choose between fire and ice. And I know obviously some of you might think Jon would obviously choose fire and fight for humanity. And sure, but Daenerys is already the fire. Even the author of the book said it himself, that Daenerys and her dragons are the fire, and the stuff going at the wall with Jon and the guys are ice.
Well, of course, the two outlying ones, the things that are going north of the wall, and Daenerys Targaryen on the other continent with her dragons are of course the ice and fire of the title, A Song of Ice and Fire.
Jon could become the Ultra Giga Chad and basically go from a protector of the realm to the destroyer of the realm. And the thing that is most crazy about this is that this has been foreshadowed. Jon being a villain, or at least being a villain to many other people, could have been foreshadowed. And it all has to do with the Blue Rose. If you don't know what the Blue Rose is, it's not something you sniff and get high and play Fortnite with. The Blue Rose represents Lyanna Stark, Rhaegar Targaryen, and most importantly Jon Snow. And just the overall birth of Jon. Now to get into a little bit of history lesson, the Blue Rose is the reason why everything went wrong. The Blue Rose first appeared when Rhaegar Targaryen won the tournament, and he was supposed to give this blue flower to his wife Elia Martell, but he was like, damn, look at that 15-year-old girl right there. What's her name, Lyanna Stark? Shawty, you are fine, and he gave her a blue rose, making her the queen of love and beauty. And it essentially started everything. Everyone was mad that Rhaegar gave a blue rose to Lyanna who was Robert's betrothed. And even Sir Barristan said he wished he beated Rhaegar in this tournament so Rhaegar couldn't give the blue rose to Lyanna, and essentially caused dozens of wars.
Muddy and bruised, I then watched Rhaegar present Lyanna Stark with the victor's crown of roses, though she was betrothed to Robert Baratheon. And Rhaegar himself was married to Elia Martell. We all know what happened after. If I'd been a bit quicker with my lance, if I'd chosen a faster horse, perhaps I could have spared the kingdom from the destruction that came after.
Rhaegar put 7 kingdoms on their toes for a booty call, and as soon as Rhaegar impregnates Lyanna and Lyanna gives birth, while she's dying, Ned Stark sees that the blue rose falls from her hand, and she gives birth to Jon Snow, maybe symbolizing her spitting Jon Snow out of her body. And then in book 2, Daenerys goes into the House of the Undying. The House of the Undying is like an insane weed trip, but a lot more proactive. And Daenerys sees a blue rose coming out of the ice wall. So this blue rose obviously represents Jon Snow, as we know. And many readers think that this sequence is telling Daenerys that her and Jon Snow will be like lovers or homeboys. But if you actually read the full chapter, the House of the Undying is very dark. It's not a good weed trip, it's a bad weed trip. Daenerys also sees the Red Wedding, Rhaegar's death, and the foreshadowing of lies that could kill her. So it makes sense that this blue rose is also evil. The blue rose may be warning her of Jon Snow in the battle between ice and fire. This also makes sense because Daenerys smells the blue rose and it smells like sweetness to her. But so does Varys. Varys also smells really good, and I'm not letting Varys anywhere near my kids. So the sweetness could be a lure to the poison. This all makes sense because Daenerys knows that she's going to be betrayed by a loved one very soon. And George has confirmed that we will see a second Dance of Dragons in the future books. So if Daenerys' dragon dies, because Jon is a white of fire and ice, Jon could revive Daenerys' dragon, exactly how he got revived, and Jon and Daenerys could be the real Dance of Dragons. But the main problem with this theory is that Daenerys also just doesn't want to be the hero anymore. She's totally just given up on being a hero, and George has confirmed that Daenerys will slowly embrace her Targaryen deadly fire and blood side. But it's an interesting theory nonetheless. However, Jon and Daenerys could be villains together, and at the end of the books, Jon could make the decision to embrace his Stark identity and morals, and make the bold decision to kill Daenerys. And if you think about it, Robert has foreshadowed Jon killing Daenerys like all the way back in book 1.
Daenerys Targaryen has wed some Dothraki horse lord. What of it? Shall we send her a wedding gift?
Knife, perhaps a good sharp one, and a bold man to wield it.
But one thing we can absolutely confirm no matter what, Jon Snow will be much darker in the future books. George Martin says he loves writing grey characters, not gay characters, grey characters. He loves writing characters like Daemon Targaryen, and I honestly think Jon could revive as like a Daemon 2.0.
You know, I'm notorious for my love of gray characters. And one of the grayest characters in the entire history of Westeros is Daemon Targaryen, the Rogue Prince. We took one of the sidebars and made a separate story out of it, the Rogue Prince. He's a notorious bad boy, a rogue in every sense of the word. He was a rival for Viserys' sister and his own niece, Rhaenyra, and then later he became the husband of Rhaenyra. He switches sides several times. You never know what side he's going to come down on. He's a very colorful and unpredictable character, and I think he has to rank up there as my favorite.
George's favorite character is also Tyrion, who is also the greyest of the grey. So I don't think George is going to neglect arguably his second favorite character in Jon Snow, and now make him also really morally grey, if not completely dark. And this does come from Jon's resurrection and Targaryen nature. In the show, Bran time travels and gets a free tickets to Rhaegar and Lyanna's wedding, and he's just creeping on them. But in the books, it might not be like this. While Jon is dead, Bran could send Jon a dream about Rhaegar and Lyanna's wedding and promise. In the books, Bran is already sending some creepy ass dreams to like Jaime, so he can also send it to Jon Snow. And Bloodraven also sends his dreams to the Stark boys as well. So what if Jon comes back to life as a Targaryen, and is mad at Ned Stark for lying to him, and now giving Jon the opportunity to press his claim, because Jon is at the Night's Watch now. So Ned kinda ruined Jon's political potential, and Jon could be mad that his mom died giving birth to him, his father Rhaegar started countless wars, and his grandfather is the Mad King. These are all things that would drive you into SpongeBob evil. And George writes characters like they are real people, and realistically, you can't expect Jon to not connect everything back to himself. His granddad was insane, and was also killed by Jaime, who pushed Bran out the window. So Jon could be vengeful, and his mindset could be a lot darker. This is a theory from a YouTuber AllShiftX, that Jon might just become completely mentally dark, to the point where he even lets his brother Rickon just die.
In the book, Jon will make a moral choice. Like maybe Ramsay will tell Jon not to attack or else he'll kill Rickon. But since Jon is now more reckless and because he wants Winterfell, Jon attacks anyway and causes Rickon's death. This would show that Jon has changed, that he's willing to risk innocent lives to get what he wants. And this could also create conflict between Jon and Sansa, who might blame Jon for Rickon's death.
And in the show, Jon becomes king in the north. And to be fair, it is one of the best scenes of the show, especially in the last 4 seasons.
And I will stand behind Jon Snow. The king in the north! The king in the north!
But in the books, after Sansa has her arc, Jon could press his claim for the north, against Sansa. That is some villainous stuff right there. But the reason why he would press his claim to the northern throne is because in the books, Jon has always wanted the north. He always wanted to be a Stark and be seen as a true noble northerner. And in the books, before Robb Stark died, he made a will. And in this will, he said, "When I die, please bury me in Winterfell. Please don't make me an organ donor, for God's sakes, let a man rest." And the third thing he said in this will is that when he dies, Jon Snow becomes the future king if he dies. He legitimized Jon Snow. He wanted Jon to be the future king. And many people know about this. So Jon could just say fuck Sansa, she literally married Tyrion Lannister. And it's time for some real northern leadership. And Jon could just screw over Sansa. And this makes a lot of sense. George R. R. Martin has said when a character dies, the character only has one real goal. Their main goal in life is their only reason to live. That's why Lady Stoneheart only really cares about avenging the Red Wedding and nothing else. George says he doesn't just bring back characters and then have them remain exactly the same. He famously criticized Lord of the Rings for this, like I said in my other video, which should come out in like a week or two. And he always talks mad crap about how Lord of the Rings brought back Gandalf.
If you could ask any question to Tolkien, what would that be?
Why did you bring Gandalf back from the dead? He should have stayed dead.
And where things get crazy for Jon Snow being the villain is with this. The character that knows about this will more than anyone is Lady Stoneheart, aka Catelyn Stark. And Catelyn doesn't care about anything but avenging the Red Wedding and killing Jaime Lannister. Catelyn probably knows that everyone is saying that her daughter Arya Stark is in Winterfell, and so far, Lady Stoneheart does not give two shits about Arya or whoever that is. She only cares about avenging the Red Wedding by any means. And her death is very similar to Jon Snow's death. They both were betrayed, they both were killed by knives, and most importantly, when Catelyn died, her body was thrown into the river, which is connected to her last name, Catelyn Tully of Riverrun. And Jon Snow's dead body fell onto snow, just like his last name. So they are connected in a sense. So if Jon Snow finds out that he's a Targaryen, and Jaime Lannister killed his father, obviously Jon doesn't know why he did that, Jon Snow and Lady Stoneheart can team up and kill Jaime Lannister with nothing but bloody revenge. It's a really dark twist that I really can just see George doing.
Hi, Connie.
I can't fit all my books in my locker. Can I put the rest of them on your ginormous ass?
Hey, Connie. Hi, Peter Griffin, Meg's father. Say, can you do me a favor? You see that fire extinguisher there?
Dad, that's enough! Dad, that's enough! That's enough, Dad!
But the main reason and the biggest reason why Jon Snow could return as a villain is simply because George does talk about death in this way. In the TV show, Jon just gets a haircut and he remains basically the same. He only really has like one falling out.
I did everything I could, you know.
You swore a vow.
Aye, I pledged my life to the Night's Watch. I gave my life.
For all knights to come.
They killed me, Ed, my own brothers. You want me to stay here after that?
But in the books, George Martin is writing Jon Snow. And George has indirectly confirmed that Jon will be completely changed when he's revived, just like how every character when they are revived. The interview itself is pretty long, but I'll play a part of it right here.
My characters who come back from death are the worse for wear. In some ways, they're not even the same characters anymore. The body may be moving, but some aspect of the spirit is changed or transformed, and they've lost something. One of the characters who has come back repeatedly from death is a minor character named Beric Dondarrion, the Lightning Lord, and each time he's revived, he loses a little more of himself. And he was sent on a mission before his first death. He was sent on a mission to do something, and it's like that's what he's clinging to. And he's forgetting other things. He's forgetting who he is or where he lived. He's forgotten the woman that he was once supposed to marry. Bits of his humanity are lost every time he comes back from death, but he remembers that mission. It's like his flesh is falling away from him, but this one thing, this purpose that he had, is part of what's animating him and bringing him back to death. And I think you see echoes of that with some of the other characters who have come back from death.
As magic seeps into this world, which is of course part of the unfolding story, not even death is really permanent anymore. What do you think about that?
Well, I do think that if you're bringing a character back, that if a character has gone through death, that's a transformative experience. I mean, even back in those days of Wonder Man and all that, I love the fact that he died. I don't think I was, although I liked the character in later years, I wasn't so thrilled when he came back, because that sort of undid the power of it. And much as I admired Tolkien, I've once again always felt that Gandalf should have stayed dead.
So I don't think it's a question. I do believe Jon will become much grayer. And I think in the Winds of Winter, and the first 60% of A Dream of Spring, Jon is going to lose a lot of his good qualities and become much darker. Not physically, of course. And I do think by the end of his story, I do think he'll become the depressed, victorious hero of Westeros. Kind of like the show, but a lot cooler. He is Ned Stark's adopted son after all. Jon dying as a villain would completely destroy Ned Stark's legacy in my opinion. Let me know what you think. Villain or hero? Let me know. And yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, and peace.